Well, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Going to do a quick little video here on what the creator, the main designer of 5th edition D&D, Mike Mearls, thinks about the direction of the artwork in current 2024 D&D, 6e, however you want to put it. He's been very open, I think I mentioned before, on X these days, and I would highly encourage you to follow him. I kind of had a preconceived notion about Mike based on kind of a stupid tweet he made years ago. He seems to be kind of free of the shackles of Wizards of the Coast and probably the gag order that he felt compelled to be under while he was there. So now he's more or less speaking his mind, and maybe if he doesn't quite agree 100% with everything we say in this channel, I think he might agree a little bit more than we may have thought before. So without further ado, let's get into it, and then at the end, I will give you my thoughts. Okay, so this is the tweet in question, or post, I guess you would say now on X, that started it all. This is Mike saying, "What's a fun, interesting fight in D&D look like? In his experience, it gives players a clear sense that they might fail, a vivid sense of danger, and leaves players with a sense of triumph without the threat of defeat. Combat is a waste of time." A sentiment I think most all of us agree with. And he's referring to this really, really cool cover of Dragon number 127. So that would have been, I guess, in the 80s, sometime maybe in the mid-80s. You can see it's just a really brilliant work here. I'm not even sure who did this, but man, is it beautiful. You got some elves there confronting a group of orc survivors, maybe closing in on them. Just really, really captures the spirit of the end of a bitter combat. And you can probably imagine what's going to happen next. These guys are going to die, but they're going to go down with a fight, or maybe they can be persuaded to surrender. I doubt it, but always possible. And Mike even says, "I love that image because while it's clear the elves can finish off those orcs, they're going to pay a steep price doing so. Time to parlay." Exactly. But, Mike has been so open these days. I just kind of wanted to ask him some of the stuff that we go over mostly on our live streams on Wednesday night. Please tune in if you're into that sort of thing, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I just basically said, "Hey, Mike, what's your opinion on the art in the new edition of D&D? With a few exceptions, it seems like the art is uninspiring, soft, and full of what many see as agenda." And of course, this is probably the piece that captures that best. The Mexican orcs, the people who just want to travel across the border and live peaceful lives. Enough said there. So Mike had this to say. A few thoughts. The orc thing specifically comes from World of Warcraft, in his opinion. Many fantasy gamers now expect orcs to have a culture and serve as playable characters. As far as direction goes, he's not crazy about it. He says he thinks that people liked orcs, especially from World of Warcraft, because they were violent, warlike, and tough. Exactly, Mike. World of Warcraft orcs felt a bit like the fantasy equivalent of Klingons to me. I've heard criticisms that every race in D&D now feels like it's been pushed to look more like elves, and that resonates with me. Everything feels too tightly wound to an overly specific aesthetic. So I'll pause here and go into something that we found in our last live stream, but I kind of reiterated in a post of mine on X. And that is how they have destroyed the Gith. Gith Yankee, Gith Zeri. I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't even know the difference. I think I used them back in the 90s in my Planescape campaign, but because I run Birthright, which is very much Western European in feel, I really don't have much use for these guys. But still, I always thought aesthetically they were kind of cool. And here I say, even in the late 90s, they had the Gith figured out aesthetically. Nowadays, they're just another soft Dr. Seussian D&D furry. And you can see what I'm talking about here. Now, some people have said, "Hey, this looks more like an orc." I still think it is a Gith. And let me know in the comments if I'm wrong here. But I think with that weird hairstyle and just kind of the way the shape of the skull, to me, it looks more like a Gith. Whatever it is, it looks damn cool. And they, trust me, if we were talking about orcs, we'd still be talking about the same issue, and that is the softening of them. So I'm comparing this GIF, I'm going to call it a GIF, with this. That is from the new D&D 2024. You can see the difference here. Just awful. That is fearsome. That is something to be feared. This is something that you would see in a children's book. As I said, they look like very Dr. Seussian. Instead of those ears being pinned back in anger in the first one, they're kind of fanned out like a dog in the modern D&D. And our friend Kevin Lamb, yes, puts it very succinctly here. Yes, he can see kind of the similarity in, at least in feel. So I am also not a fan of the softening of every single race. Okay, but let's return back to what Mike says. He doesn't like the contemporary hairstyling or clothing. I agree with him there. I think we all do. That's quite frankly artists, I think, who don't have a ton of imagination. I think that's endemic of that. I think that pulls you out of something that's supposed to be timeless, correct? It reminds me of late 80s fantasy artwork where the women had perms and the guys looked like they spent all day at Gold's Gym. He likes fantasy art that feels more natural, less posed. I'll disagree with Mike a little bit here. The perms probably not. That is very that is very contemporary. There's probably no reason people would have kinky perms in in a fantasy world. But as far as the guys looking like they spent all day at Gold's Gym, look, that's just the classic muscle-bound hero. Was it puffed up a little bit more in the 80s? Maybe a little bit, but quite frankly, that's okay with me. I don't mind that at all. To his general point, fantasy art that feels more natural, less posed. Yeah, as long as the natural is, natural. I also think the art has generally moved away from a naturalistic slice of life feel to a more posed or staged style. It looks like everybody is just stopped, standing still, and posing for a selfie. They don't capture action the way the artists of old did. And so here's the rub. In terms of agenda, let's be honest, you're asking about representation. Sure. Yep, that's I guess true at its core. Realistically, game budgets have grown to the point where bigger games are expected to be the equivalent of a 4-quadrant movie. In movies, 4-quadrant refers to the idea that you make something that appeals across all demographics. So Mike concludes here, in his opinion, representation and diversity work best when built organically into a story. Pretty much, obviously, my thinking. He thinks part of why 5e succeeded was that it had diverse art that felt like it all fit into an existing world. I am going to disagree with that. I don't think 5e succeeded on the basis of its artwork. In a lot of ways, the artwork in 5e is inferior even to 4th edition. I think Wayne Reynolds, he has his critics too, but I think Wayne Reynolds is far better than a lot of the artists that they got in 5th edition. Let's be fair. We have it on tape that one of the artists said they were given a decree by Wizards of the Coast. No more white men.
When we got the descriptions, they were very adamant. They were like, try not to make it like a white blonde guy. Like, please, like we love them, but there's like 500 million of them.
The diversity that the characters need to have needs to reflect the gaming world now.
The mix of people that are playing these games, it's not 13-year-old white boys held up in their basements. It's a very diverse crowd.
I mean, how can you create good art when you have to follow a decree of exclusion? That's always in the back of your mind. It's going to appear ham-fisted. So with all due respect to Mike here, no, that is not why 5e succeeded. 5e succeeded because 4e was just kind of seen as a failure, and the zeitgeist basically decreed that it was a failure. So whatever was going to come next was probably going to succeed. Continuing, we used Forgotten Realms as the starting point and built our art guides for a variety of that world's cultures to give us a diverse cast. We didn't need to change or add anything. Ed and the other creators behind Forgotten Realms had done the work for us. We just needed to cast a spotlight on it. Okay, fair enough. Even I'll even just concede that point. So maybe some of the art ended up not being as, modern day Los Angeles as it is now, but it is now, and that's kind of where we're at. Closing here, Mike says he thinks that authenticity resonated with people. It let them escape the real world for a while and put both feet into a fantasy setting. So you read that, and it sure sounds like Mike is a lot like us. And I think in many ways he is. I know RPG Pundit has talked about him and said that, look, Mike's a very reasonable guy, nice guy. And he's more like an old school liberal who's probably looking around and is probably afraid to just fully come out and say this is all insane, what my side believes now. But if I had to wager money on it, I think there's probably a good part of him that does think that a lot of this stuff just goes way too far. And he may never concede that, we're right and they're wrong. But I think if you read between the lines, that's sort of what he's saying. People want escapism in their fantasy. They don't want this ludicrous stuff, this Dr. Seussian Gith, Mexican orcs, regardless of whether that's 4-quadrant or not. This is all very, very silly. And I think there will be a correction, but this edition just came out now, so we're going to have to ride it out. Now, some of you always say, like, hey, Double D, why are you so concerned? You don't even play the game anymore. That is true. But when the market leader is suffering, you see this across businesses. When the market leader is flailing and suffering, the whole industry suffers as well. And maybe we just kind of haven't felt it yet. We're still riding kind of the coattails of the whole, COVID thing. I think there's a lot of indications that sales are down all over, not just D&D, but, some of our friends. I know Miguel and Sylvia at the Red Room said that they're suffering. I've heard other things from other small press creators saying their sales are down. It's not good. Okay, so D&D, as much as we hate the company right now that has the license, as much as we hate the product, it would be better if it was better, and it succeeded. Now, obviously, this edition is what it is. It's just more of the same. But let's hope that things get so bad that they have nowhere to go but up. Then maybe D&D can course correct and people won't be ashamed to play it anymore. And then look, and the whole industry will be better. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it is true. When the market grows because somebody's leading the way, everybody profits. Okay, so as much as we love to tear down D&D, and it is fun, trust me, you really do want to see it do better in the future. So I think that is best served right now by calling out the ludicrous nature of it. And, hopefully the next edition, a course correction will be in store for us. Whether that's through Wizards of the Coast, which I doubt, or maybe they will divest themselves of it in some manner. And, maybe it'll be in the hands of somebody that actually appreciates the game, appreciates the history of the game a lot more than they do. So, all right, that's about enough for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this little quickie video. We'll be back soon. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Lair. That's our weekly live stream. We have a lot of fun with it, and we hope to see you guys there. And like I said, I'm going to keep trying to do these kind of shorter, off-the-cuff videos. I have a second site now set up, as you can kind of see. That doesn't mean I'm abandoning the original studio. I'll use that for more in-depth videos. But I like this one here because I can just pop this up, ready to go. I can bang these out in a decent amount of time and get you guys more content. And you can show me that you like that content by hitting the thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so. I appreciate it. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk soon. Peace.